We are back with you once again with a Johnnie Torch Review. This time we're taking on a brief review of the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie that just came out recently, starring Jim Carrey returning to his crazy 90s era personality, which is, a welcome return to the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, which is pretty cool. It was pretty enjoyable. Let's see here. We've got James Marsden starring, and of course this will be a spoiler review, but I don't intend it to be too long, but if you just want the nuts and bolts review, I shall try to give it to you right now. Yeah, it was good. It was very good. Starring James Marsden, and, James Marsden playing sort of the human character that they seem to always have to have in these adaptations. I think it was, Neil Patrick Harris in Smurfs. And James Marsden is a really good actor. He deserves better than being the +1 in these movies. That seems to be, his forte, like Hop and, Enchanted. Superhero fans will remember him as Cyclops in the X-Men movies. Again, woefully underrated actor. I would love to see him as, maybe Hal Jordan. Give him another chance as a superhero. He's still young enough to, pull off another starring role as a superhero. And he was very good. I liked the voice actor for Sonic. I was kind of concerned that I'm so used to Jolly White doing the voice of Sonic in the cartoons for several years that it was going to be a distraction. But, as much as I love Jolly White, I think this guy, again, I don't have the cast in front of me, but he was very capable. It sounded like a voice that belonged with Sonic. It didn't seem like there was... it didn't take me out of the movie, which is what I was concerned of. I would have liked to see Jolly White maybe get a cameo or something in the film. Unfortunately, he doesn't get one, but, there's always a chance in the future. Again, Jim Carrey, a return to his roots, sort of. If you love 90s Jim Carrey, you're going to love Jim Carrey here as Dr. Robotnik. Again, without giving away spoilers yet, I'll just say, yeah, it was a good movie. It was successful doing what it had to do. It sort of is the stage setter, laying groundwork for, I think, what would be probably a better sequel. It's very much, it's a very kid-friendly movie. There's no bad words. There's nothing really to, irk the parents in the audience and raise the ire of the parents. So it's a very good movie for kids, I think. I think it's, age-appropriate. It doesn't really overstay its welcome. I think it's like an hour and 40 minutes. But that's sort of the double-edged sword. It does feel very basic. I don't think there was really any surprises in this. There really wasn't anything that exceeded my expectations. My expectations were pretty much met. I mean, I figured what this was going to be like, and it pretty much was everything that I expected of it, which is good. I certainly wouldn't say I was disappointed, but again, it was very much a setting the stage film. They didn't want to put all their eggs in one basket, and it felt very safe. I think I'll put it that way. So yeah, a recommendation from me, a thumbs up. If you're a big fan of Sonic. If not, you could probably wait for DVD or streaming service or something, but, yeah, very enjoyable. Now, we'll get into some of the more details of it here, so if that's all you were looking for, and you haven't seen the movie yet, go ahead and see the movie, and enjoy it, and come back to the rest of the video. We're beginning the spoiler segment here. Spoiler warning. There really isn't a lot of spoilers for this film. I'll talk about some of the Easter eggs, I guess, is the way to describe them. We see the Knuckles species. They're in the beginning of the movie chasing Sonic. Now, this is a very different origin from anything that I was aware of in the comics. Of course, I when I was a kid, it was the Sonic cartoon show with Sally and Snively and Rotor and all those characters. This is nothing like that. So if you, like me, were sort of brought up on that show, yeah, this is nothing like that. Sonic is apparently raised by an eagle who sort of gets the Bambi's mother treatment here. Just run and don't look back, and we're left to wonder what happened to her, because the Knuckles species sort of wants to use his power. Very vaguely, we're told they want to use his power. So Sonic is stranded on Earth. He grows up, I guess from whatever he was as a youngster to a teenager, and there's a lot of cute, pop culture references. He's reading Flash comics, and he's sort of stalking the sheriff of the town, I guess, which is James Marsden, named Tom. And Tom's married. I don't know the actress, but she was also very decent. I mean, she didn't overplay the part, which was good. She was just sort of a supporting character, mostly near the end. She was all right. Some funny stuff with her and her sister, and that was played for laughs. Sonic sort of needs help from James Marsden to get to San Francisco, where his bag of power rings was accidentally transported to, and he has to get them in order to, escape to another dimension before the evil Dr. Robotnik comes down upon him with a fury. Jim Carrey here, like I said, to his credit, he doesn't overplay it. I was expecting him to be even more crazy than kind of what he presents here. For instance, I think Batman Forever, which is sort of that's my default version of Jim Carrey, because, being a big Batman fan, I was kind of expecting. Jim Carrey sort of overdid it in Batman Forever. I always kind of thought that was, a little bit of excess there. He reins it in enough here that it's not, wildly over the top, but, it's still the best of Jim Carrey. He still does the funky dances and, has a lot of the, sort of over-caffeinated line delivery. So he was fun to watch. He was a treat here. He has a couple of funny lines. Again, I think there's room for him to grow into the role a little bit more. He's sort of playing a Snidely Whiplash type character here, and as sort of a overly intellectual character that's been bullied. I'm glad they stuck with Dr. Robotnik as his name. Sonic calls him Eggman as a tribute to, I guess, the Japanese version of Sonic, where he's called Eggman. And he's called that basically because of his drones, which he sends out using his gloves, which are shaped like eggs, I suppose. And they don't ever call him Ivo, which I think was supposed to be his first name, which I thought would have been also a nice Easter egg drop, but they don't ever go that far. He gets the actual Robotnik look in the end teaser, for the next film, where he's, transported to the Mushroom Land or whatever. And it's really exciting to see how he ends up, getting the fat belly. I guess eventually he'll get, but he has the bald head and the crazy mustache. So that was really cool. The CGI was fine. I thought the CGI looked great. Didn't really have an issue with it. It's sort of a buddy movie. They go on the road, and Sonic learns what it's like to have a bucket list, which seems to be a storyline point. And they live it up in a Texas bar or something. Not where I expected Sonic to be, but it was funny. It reminded me of a lot of the old, road trip movies where you have things like that happen. And they kind of have a moment where there's a parting of the ways, where they are they going to be friends? Or are they just going to be sort of just for mutual advantage or whatever? They never really go back to that, because, on his bucket list, the last thing Sonic doesn't write off is, making a real friend or something like that. And they don't ever have him, like, scratch that off. I thought that was interesting that they didn't, you know, go back to that, because they obviously left that as sort of a, you know, like a lead up to the plot. Let's see, Sonic Sneakers gets, like, an origin here. I thought that was kind of strange. Tom's niece gives them to him, which, you know, it's nice. I think they kind of wanted a moment where he interacts with a kid, because he's basically just interacting with adults through this whole thing. And Sonic is, you know, kind of a childhood character, you know, a child's character. And they kind of wanted to have him interact with a kid, however briefly. So I didn't mind it at that point, but I thought his sneakers were probably better served being from, like, another planet or something to explain why they don't wear out, like his, you know, his original sneakers did in this film. Let's see, there's a pretty good soundtrack. You know, they have some cool songs here. Queen is always, you know, especially the song they chose, Don't Stop Me Now. This is very appropriate. But a year ago, used in Shazam, very popular song for these sort of kiddie films that, you know, you wouldn't expect that song really to be played, but they did a pretty cool version of it. You know, they didn't overplay it, but that was fun. Of course, the end, you know, the mid-credit tag, I guess is what they call it, introduces Tails. And again, I kind of feel like they could have done more had they introduced more of these characters into the story. It's a very basic story. But I think, again, also, you have to hand it to them that they listened to the fans. That there was backlash over the way Sonic looked. It was horrible, quite frankly. They went back to formula, and they redid the whole Sonic look. He looks better now. And, you know, that probably also, you know, cost them some coin. So again, they couldn't put all their eggs in one basket. I understand that. But, you know, again, I would have liked to see what they could do with Tails. He just gets introduced in the mid-credits tag, so stay for that. And that'll probably lead to a more exciting sequel. Also, they didn't really introduce Knuckles, another popular character from the Sonic video games and the lore. You know, there was a cameo by the guy who plays Damien Dark, Neil McDonough, which was a welcome cameo. He's a really good actor. He didn't really have much to do in this film, but, you know, his presence is always enjoyable. He gets a scene where Robotnik sort of, you know, Jim Carrey does one of his, like, little routines on him, which was pretty funny. Stone was Robotnik's lackey in this one. Like I said, Snively was the traditional character in the original cartoon, I think. Scratch and Grounder being others from another version of the cartoon. You know, he's kind of just like milquetoast here. He's not really an interesting character, Stone, but he kind of disappears in the third act. I was kind of wondering if something was going to happen to him similar as something happened to Robotnik at the end, you know, going and his whole look changing and whatever. They could do things like that. See, they didn't really go with the cartoon version where Robotnik is kind of called Robotnik because he roboticizes other animals and creatures and stuff. It would have been interesting if they'd have had, like, instead of the eagle, like Uncle Chuck, who was the roboticized minion of Robotnik, and maybe do something with Stone at the end and roboticize him. That kind of stuff. It's like, I mean, there's a lot of fantastical stuff they could have done that it seems like they're saving for the sequel, that this is just sort of laying the groundwork. So again, as a groundwork film, as one just being the first step, I think it was successful. You know, could they have done more? Yeah, I think so. But it's a good first step, given probably the budget. You know, if this thing does become wildly successful, like I think it will, like I hope it will, they probably could do a really cool trilogy of these films. Again, I'm not sure what they can do with James Marsden going forward, if they're going to have Sonic, like, go into these other dimensions with the Knuckles gang and with the Mushroom Land or whatever. It could be interesting to take James Marsden along on that ride, so to speak. But, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog, yeah, I'm a fan. I you know, of course, I played the video games. particularly when I was a teenager. I read the comics to my brother. He's a big fan as well. He enjoyed it a lot. We took the whole family, and they all enjoyed it a lot. So like I said, if you got kids, it's probably going to be a pretty good, crowd pleaser, and you should be able to enjoy it even as an adult, because it's tapping into some of that nostalgia as well. There's a lot of kind of callbacks to the video game. Like I said, the way Sonic defeats Robotnik at the end by turning into a ball and repeatedly smashing into his spaceship, that's straight out of the Sega games. So, there was some nostalgia there. Of course, you have 90s era Jim Carrey, which was the big draw at the box office around the time when Sonic was the big draw for video games. So, yeah, I'm giving it a thumbs up. I'm going to give Sonic the Hedgehog 4 stars out of 5. That's 4 stars out of 5. I am going to give it, I guess if you want a letter rating, that would be a B+. Always difficult, because a 4 to me is either a B+ or an A-. But like I said, I think in this case, they are kind of, they're hedging their bets a little bit. I felt that they were holding back a little bit. That, like I said, a more exciting movie will be made with the sequel. Sometimes you need that, though. Sometimes you need to do the motion picture in order to get to the Wrath of Khan. Something like that. Sometimes that's the way it goes. But, yeah, I would recommend it. And, hopefully it does well enough to get a real big-budgeted sequel. And hopefully they signed up Jim Carrey for a 3-picture deal. Alright, so, once again, that is my review for Sonic the Hedgehog. Make sure you hit that like button, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And remember, as I always say, this is Johnnie Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.